I get asked a lot to make meta loadout videos in the comments of my videos, so I thought I'd put together a list of the top 5 weapons that in my opinion are the most broken weapons in Endgame. Maybe you have some slightly different weapons you think are the best, and I'd like to hear about them in the comments down below, so please do send them over with any build codes or recommended exotic effects or utility bonuses you use. So let's get straight into it with my personal top 5 weapons that I think are the absolute meta in Endgame for taking on aspects like Falkner, defeating the Nightmare Zone strike bosses, and running the glitch fractures with a team or as a solo. At number 5, an old but gold and a little bit of a controversial entry, and that is the Arrow 109 launcher. This thing has been insane since the launch of Endgame back in 2025. Now, why do I think this is a controversial addition to the top 5 list? Well, as of right now, you can't find it in game, so using it as a secondary weapon is nearly impossible unless you've already got one you previously found. It's completely unclear why the Arrow 109 was removed from the weapon cases in Endgame, but it must have caused some type of issue. I have included it on this list because you can still equip it as a primary weapon in your loadout, and you may have one on one of your operators from previous runs. The Arrow 109 is excellent against nearly everything in Endgame, from standard enemies to boss types and even vehicles like the VTOLs, making it one of the best weapons you can have on your operators. It can also be upgraded at the jailbreak workbenches all the way up to legendary and have exotic rarity, exotic effects and utility bonuses added to it to make it even more powerful. You can apply any of the exotic effects to the Arrow 109, but I'd probably recommend the mortar round one as it can add even more explosive damage and chaos. For the utility bonus, you can roll either swap reloads that reloads the Arrow 109 by switching weapons, zero waste that gives you a 50% chance of not taking ammo from the launcher, kill and run that increases your movement speed on getting eliminations, and lightweight that gives you a movement speed increase as well. But I would personally recommend zero waste as you'll get more shots out of the Arrow 109 before having to reload. I've added it to the list despite it randomly being removed from the weapon pool in the game, as I like to think it's been taken out to be fixed in some way and it will return. As it stands, there is not an exotic version of it, but never say never. Okay, so let's move on to the number 4 slot of my top 5 recommendations for Endgame. Coming in at number 4, we have the SoCal 545 LMG. This is by far the best of the LMGs and one of the best weapons in the game once upgraded and exotic effects applied to it. You can either build a primary loadout version of it yourself and then upgrade it at the exotic fabricator, or look for its exotic field upgrade version in-game by completing Falkner's Island, Mega Abominations, or getting lucky taking out elites in the higher zones and checking the exotic weapon cases that drop. The exotic version is called the Hyper Surge, which comes with an affinity to the shock rounds. So if you find one with shock rounds already on it, you'll get added bonuses to it like the Lightning Strike, Big Game, or Chain Lightning utility bonuses that can only be found on the Hyper Surge. If you want to roll and get different utility bonuses, you can get Lightweight, Hip Inferno, Sharpshooter, and Free Fire. For me, the Sharpshooter one is great as it will cause critical damage to shots that hit in the upper torso, so you don't just need to hit headshots to get the maximum amount of damage. But the one I tend to go with is Free Fire, as this will place all ammo for the SoCal in a single magazine, meaning you never have to reload. You just need to pick up ammo pouches as you go, but you'll be able to continuously fire it, which is great. As I say, this is great if you build it from scratch in your loadout, but also the Hyper Surge with shock rounds applied when you find it is also fantastic. For the attachments on the SoCal, if you are not using the exotic version, I'd recommend the Fang Hoverpoint ELA for the optic, Monolithic Suppressor for the muzzle, the 18.2 inch Parlous Heavy Barrel for the barrel, the Envoy Foregrip for the underbarrel, the Nevis K bulk magazine for the magazine, the SWF Garrett grip for the rear grip, the traction control stock for the stock, and finally the buffer springs for the fire mods. Okay, so let's move on to number 3 on my list, the Warden 308 with a few modifications. The Warden 308 is a marksman rifle, but thanks to a recent weekly challenge reward, can be turned into a dual wielding pistol. Not only can it be turned akimbo, but it can also have explosive damage applied to it. You'll want to build your own Warden 308 pistol from scratch in the main menu for this one. So start with the Warden 308 Badlands pistol kit, as this will turn the long rifle into a pistol. Then you'll want to apply the Warden 308 revolver akimbo attachment, which turns the Warden 308 into the dual wielding pistols. This weapon starts to get insane once you've upgraded it at the exotic fabricator in the Nightmare Zone. The Warden can have any of the exotic effects applied to it, but I'd recommend shrapnel rounds for this build, as this effect rips through the armor of any enemy that has it, making you deal more damage. It can also have the recoil, delete, lifestyle and lightweight utility bonuses applied to it, but I would absolutely recommend that you keep rolling until you get the explosive bullets for it. This is what makes the Warden 308 so insane. So to build this weapon, you'll need to add the Warden 308 Badlands pistol kit, the Warden 308 revolver akimbo attachment, then add explosive bullets and shrapnel rounds. You'll also want to add skill tracks like Bulldozer for explosive protection and Eagle Eye for its critical damage increases to make these weapons absolutely bang anything. For the other attachments on the Warden, I'd probably suggest the Fang Hoverpoint ELO Optic, Lethal Tools Crown Comp Muzzle, 10-inch spiral barrel for the barrel, Leviathan grip for the rear grip, the free MW Motion Strike laser for the laser, and the buffer springs for the fire mods. Next up in the number 2 slot is one of my favourite weapons to use at the moment, and it is the Reboot pistol, which is an exotic version of the 1911 pistol. This thing absolutely melts. The 1911 is okay in Endgame. It comes with an akimbo attachment that makes it fun to use, but the exotic version comes with grenade bullets that make it absolutely insane against most enemies. You'll need to find this from defeating either Falkner on the Red Skull Island or the Mega Abomination activity, and hope you get it in the exotic weapon cases that drop from completing them. There is also a chance that exotic weapon cases drop from elites, higher tier missions, or even randomly found in weapon cases, but the best method is to run Falkner and Mega Abominations, as these are guaranteed weapon case drops. You'll be looking for a Reboot with grenade bullets attached to it in the utility bonus slot, but don't worry if you find one without it, because you can keep re-rolling the Reboot at the exotic fabricator in the Nightmare Zones until you get the option for it. I personally had to re-roll about 10 times after I found one that didn't come with grenade bullets. It is there, you just need to keep trying to get it. Exotic weapons are great because they come with all the best attachments for that weapon usually, and the Reboot is no exception. Once you have it with grenade bullets, it is so good. Obviously, I recommend that you use Bulldozer to stop you from knocking or damaging yourself from the explosive ammo, but it's fantastic at clearing groups of enemies, destroying spores, elites and bosses, although it's a bit slower at taking out the higher tiered enemies, but it still does really well against them. It 100% deserves the number 2 spot, not only thanks to how powerful it is, but it's also fun to use. I really enjoy running glitch fractures with the Reboot. I really hope that Treyarch adds grenade bullets to the 1911 utility rotation so we can use it in akimbo. For the exotic effect, I'd recommend either mortar rounds or shrapnel rounds. Coming in at the number 1 spot is still the XR3 Ion. The XR3 Ion remains the single best weapon in Endgame. It has the most insane amount of damage output and clears absolutely everything in the game, from standard enemies all the way up to glitch fracture bosses, sometimes in seconds. I see a lot of comments suggesting that Treyarch will nerf the XR3 Ion, but honestly, I'm not sure they will. You can add a bunch of great attachments to the XR3 to make it bang more, but its real power comes from the combination of shrapnel rounds as the exotic effect and explosive bullets as the utility bonus. So the gun itself isn't broken, but the skills and exotic upgrades that can be applied to it. I'd recommend running Bulldozer to protect yourself against the explosive bullet damage, and Eagle Eye, as these skill tracks have multiple skills that drastically increase the lethality of the XR3 Ion in Endgame. For the attachments, I am using the Fang Hoverpoint ELO optic, the Triptech brake muzzle, 19-inch revolutionary barrel, LTI enforcer handguard, LT sling grip for the rear grip, LTI collapsed stock for the stock, 3 MW motion strike laser, and quick charge fire mods. Honestly, I don't think most attachments are that important in Endgame. The real power of these weapons comes from the combination of your skill tracks and the exotic effects and utility bonuses you apply to them. Most of the weapons in the game become viable once they are fully upgraded at the exotic fabricator. And those are my top 5 weapons I'd recommend for Endgame. I can't see the meta changing much over the coming months, but if it does, I'll make another top 5 video if it changes enough. As I said at the beginning of the video, you might have some secret recommendations for weapons that perform better than some of these, and I'd like to hear about them in the comments section down below. I'll be uploading more Endgame videos in the coming days and weeks, so make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out. I also have an Endgame dedicated Discord server, so if you are looking for teammates or want to discuss Endgame further, the link will be in the description below. As always, thanks for watching and have a great day.